Today we'll be talking to Lisa Woodruff, who's the the founder of Organize 365, about the topic of organization, especially organization for our listeners with attention deficit disorder. If you are someone who never feels organized, who just can't figure out how to get started, or where to start, or who tries organizing solutions and they just don't seem to work one after another, then this webinar is for you. So Lisa will be talking today about why organization is not an innate skill, why it's developed over time, about how to plan, how to organize and complete the tasks that you start, and about executive functions that are something that affect all of us with ADHD and why they affect your ability to get organized. And she'll be providing 4 keys to start organizing any space in your home. So, Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. We are very grateful for your time. I want to introduce Lisa to you. She is the founder of Organize 365, and you can find her on that URL, a podcast, and the creator of the 100-Day Home Organization Program, as well as a number of other programs, including the Sunday Basket Workshop and Paper Organization Certification Program. She's an Amazon bestselling author of The Mindset of Organization, Take Back Your House One Phase at a Time, and about how ADHD affects home organization. She firmly believes that organization is not a skill you're born with. It's a skill that you can develop over time, and it changes with every season in your life. She's helped thousands of women reclaim their homes, and men, I'm guessing, and finally get organized, with her focus on functional organizing, encouragement, and humor through her weekly podcast. So check those out, Organize 365 podcast. As always with our broadcasts, Lisa will present her slides, and then she'll take your questions, as many as we have time for. And before she starts her presentation, I wanted to ask you to complete a brief poll. Specifically, what's the hardest part of getting organized for you? Is it getting started? Is it knowing how to organize a space? Is it maintaining that motivation to keep it going? Or maybe is it all of the above? So while you're completing that poll, let me just remind you that you can download her slides now in the resource list widget. Some people like to print them out, take notes on them. You can resize the widgets on your screen if you choose, and don't forget that these webinars are bandwidth intensive. So if you're having audio problems, it means that you may have programs or browser sessions running in the background, and you need to close those in order to have optimal listening experience. So with that, let's see how our poll went. Oh, all of the above. No surprise, right, Lisa?
You're in the right place.
Yeah, you're here. You're in the right place, everybody. Okay, Lisa, let me turn it over to you, and we'll talk when your slides are finished, and we'll take your questions, everyone. So keep those questions coming in the Q&A box. As you think of them, just feel free to post them now. So, okay, Lisa, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you everyone for joining me. I know your time is very valuable. I will not waste any of it. My name is Lisa Woodruff. I have a couple of podcasts. The ones I want to mention is Organize 365. If at the end of this webinar you're like, she has some out of the box ideas that I kind of like, you will like the Organize 365 podcast. If you specifically like my ideas about the Sunday basket and organizing your daily kitchen countertop paperwork and your actionable to-dos, you will like the Sunday Basket podcast. And the Sunday Basket podcast only has 29 episodes. So who am I? Why would you want to hear anything I have to say? My name is Lisa Woodruff. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I was a born organized person, and then life got moving so fast it ran me over. And when I was ready to turn 40, I quit my teaching job in December and started Organize 365 in January, the year I turned 40. And I started a professional organization company shortly thereafter when my friends told me I was one. I didn't know I was a professional organizer. And as I was a professional organizer, I love organizing all age groups. So 8-year-old little girls, 88-year-old men, doesn't matter. Any age group, I could go into their home and I could organize because I am an analytical problem solver. And as I was organizing majority women in Cincinnati, I noticed that there were 4 stages that every woman goes through. Childhood, your 20s and 30s, which I call accumulation, your 40s and early 50s, which is survival, and 55 plus, which I call downsizing and legacy. And I'm a Gen Xer, so Gen Xers and baby boomers may resonate with this more than millennials. I have lived in the same house for 22 years. And when you live in the same house and you don't move, you move through phases of life, but you don't reorder your home. And that was my first book called The Mindset of Organization, how we actually go through different phases of life. And sometimes your house gets disorganized because you're in a new phase of life and you haven't changed your organization. The second book that I published, which is probably more applicable to you, is How ADHD Affects Home Organization. And I talk about the 8 executive functions, of which we're going to talk about in this podcast at length. And in this, because my children have ADHD and they went to a specialized learning disability school, and I dove into that as the problem solver that I am, I was able to pull a lot of parallels into what was happening with them as children organizing their bedroom, with me as organizing 50% self-professed ADHD or diagnosed ADHD clients in Cincinnati. And my college degree is in early childhood, elementary, and middle school education. So I've been a teacher. So pulling on those teacher, parenting, and professional organization arms, I was able to determine that there is a lot that happens in the mind that either helps or hinders you getting organized. So like I said earlier, you are in the right place if you checked all of the above. If you or a family member is struggling with ADHD, we have solutions for you. I want to let you know that organization is a learnable skill. It's usually never taught. And if you have some ADHD components, we need to figure out which ones are the most problematic, and then there are solutions for all of them. So today you will learn which executive functions affect your ability to get organized. This is the most important thing. So many people read my book about how ADHD affects home organization. They're like, oh my gosh, I've never had anyone explain my brain to me before. We're going to figure out what's going on in the inside of your brain and how your mind is holding you back from the organization that you desire, and how you can then apply solutions to plan, organize, and complete your tasks, and then the 4 key steps to starting to organize any space. Now, my slides are not going to show you any rooms in your house. I'm not going to give you any concrete examples of how to get organized, and that is on purpose. I want you to be able to listen to me. This is why I love a podcast as well, and be thinking about your house as I relate to you different scenarios. However, I am going to be helping you with which executive function of the mind I am working on so that you can self-identify which ones are strongest for you and which ones are weakest, so you can support your weakest functions. There are 8 executive functions. FYI, no one has 100% of any of these 8. So it's not like somebody has them all and other people have none. We all have them at varying degrees. And how that manifests in your school and your work is where we come up with ADHD. It's a spectrum disorder. So there's flexible thinking, working memory, self-monitoring, task initiation, planning, organization, impulse control, and emotional control. I do not address impulse control or emotional control in my book or in this presentation. So we're only going to be talking about 6 out of the 8. All right, as I'm going through these first 6, I want you to really be thinking about which ones do you struggle with. And if you yourself have ADHD, then through this whole presentation, only be thinking about yourself, and then watch the replay to think about different family members. Or if you don't struggle with ADHD, then think about one specific child or your spouse, one person as you're going through this, versus trying to think about everyone at the same time. Let's start with flexible thinking. So flexible thinking is the ability to adjust to the unexpected. This is the person that doesn't lose it when you're going to change things at the last minute. If you have anybody in your family where if you change that schedule at the last minute, like their whole day is off and sometimes they can't even do whatever it is requested because you changed something, that is someone who struggles with flexible thinking. The next is working memory. This is the ability to keep multiple pieces of information in your mind at the same time. I told you I was a math teacher, middle school math teacher. Usually, teachers in math will be able to tell if your child is struggling with ADHD before other teachers because there is such a high degree of working memory involved in math with all the multiple steps that you need to keep in place. So if you struggle with multiple steps in math, if you struggle with remembering multiple things on a to-do list, FYI, Ladies, we just have too much on our minds. But if this is really your struggle, then it is working memory. The next one is self-monitoring, and this is your ability to evaluate what you're doing compared to other people. This is where you go on Instagram and you see that everybody's feed is perfect, and then you feel bad about yourself. Or you can be overly positive too and be like, hey, I did the dishes today, so I get a free pass on the whole day. It's not having that proper perspective of how much you've accomplished or how little you've accomplished at one time. The next one is task initiation, and that's the ability to take action and get started. That's when you block off the whole day to get organized, or you go get your hot coffee and you come home and you're like, oh, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to start. Now, getting started is overwhelming for everyone, but if you find that you generally aren't able to start projects even when everything is perfectly set up for you to start them, that is task initiation. The next one is planning, which is the ability to pick out what the most important things to do in order to get everything done. So you have a to-do list, and you're not going to cherry pick just the easiest things or go in order from top to bottom. You're actually going to look at that list, maybe get that hardest task first, eat that frog, and then go after the next things. And then the last one, the one that we all want, is organization. And these executive functions actually function in this order, and organization is the last one. And that's the ability to keep track of things mentally and physically. Someone who struggles with organization has a hard time putting things away and remembering where they left things when they are not put away. Now, I'm going to stop right here and let you know I have 2 children. My oldest son was at a specialized learning disability school here in Cincinnati called Springer. I went through this presentation. They explained all of these executive functions to me. And I went up to the headmaster at the end and I said, my son struggles with 7 out of the 8. And they said, we know. I was like, okay. So you know, and you're not kicking him out. And they're like, no, we know it is going to be a challenge for him because he has deficiencies in 7 out of the 8, like literally 7 out of the 8. And I will tell you now, 12 years later, that child is off to college on his own. So all of these things can be taught. You can get supports for all of your executive functions. So this time, when I go through these same exact executive functions, when we're going through these, I am going to give you examples of people who have this skill, what they're able to do. And if as I'm listing off the things they're able to do, you go, oh, wow, no, that's not really my strength, then that is probably an executive function that you struggle with. So we're going to start with flexible thinking. So in flexible thinking, this is the ability to adjust to the unexpected. So in our home, that means that you could possibly be using a space in your home for a way that it's not designed for. And I want you to really think about this. The majority of American homes were designed like by architects in the 1950s. That's when we first had suburbs. That's when the whole idea of these kind of houses were developed. There have not been huge advances in how we design homes in the last 70 years. So we are very much a wireless work from home society. Kids are living with us longer now. Like there are a lot of things that are different in 2019 than they were in the 1950s when we were having the baby boom be born, right? So if your house is not functioning the way it needs to, it could be because it's not designed that way. So some of the things I've done when working with people is I help them figure out how to put a home office in their home. And often we put that in the kitchen. So if you're thinking, home office in the kitchen, no, offices can't go in the kitchen. That's a flexible thinking thing. What about using your home and moving your internet hub? So our Wi-Fi and our internet hub was on the first floor in the family room because that's where the TV was. But I have almost adult children and my home office is on the second floor of our house. So we moved the whole networking upstairs so that we had better Wi-Fi and better connectivity. Also changing the contents of your kitchen cabinet. So right now you may have your kitchen cabinets are the same items are in those cabinets as when you moved in that house because that's how you unpacked the boxes. But what I find to be most efficient for most people is to create a drink cabinet where you actually pull all of the teas and coffees and liquors and smoothies and all of those things that you like to drink, juices and into one cabinet. So when you open it up, you have everything available. And maybe you don't put your wine glasses there, but other than that, smoothies and soft drinks and coffees all in one cabinet keeps your family out of your entire flow of your kitchen. And everything you need is opened in one cabinet, not opening multiple cabinets. Another big one that I tell people to do with children is take the closet doors off the hinges. Like, they never shut them anyway. So just take the door out of the room. It's going to make the space bigger, and you're going to be able to access that closet bigger. And the last one for kids is putting all of the children in one room for sleeping and another room for playing. If you have more kids than you have bedrooms, you might want to have a sleeping room and a playing room. So these are very out of the box things. If those thoughts, you're still back on number one going, why would you put an office in a kitchen? Flexible thinking is the one we need to work on for you. The next one is working memory. Now, first of all, ladies, if you're a lady, and you're going through and you're like, I have to do laundry and I have to do dishes and I have to do this. Oh, why did I go into that room? Yeah, maybe that's working memory. But also, when I spend a Saturday morning doing that, by the end of a couple hours, my whole house is clean and organized, and I've gone in 4 different rooms 18 different times. Part of that is just getting it done. But if you walk into a room to organize and you're immediately paralyzed with too many choices, then that could be possibly working memory. Another one is when you do sit down and get some organizing done and you create a couple of different piles of things to put away, and either at the end of that organizing session or the next day when you go back in that room, you can't remember what those piles are for or where they're supposed to go. And being able to remember 3 items at any one time. So I need to turn on the oven, make the coffee, start the laundry. Turn on the oven, make the coffee, start the oven. An hour later, you're like, I am exhausted. And you're like, darn it, I never made my coffee. Part of that is just life, busy life, and part of that is working memory. The next one is self-monitoring. And this is the one where we tend to not give ourselves enough credit and we don't give ourselves enough grace. I am constantly in all of my messaging giving you more credit for what you're getting done and more grace for what you haven't gotten done. I believe in progress over perfection. Done is better than perfect. You're never going to see my house in a magazine, but it is very functionally organized. This is being able to say, okay, yes, I have 10 things left on my to-do list today, but I was able to help my mom. Or yes, the family room is a mess, but I got the shopping done, made dinner, and the kitchen is clean. Or yes, the storage room is still a mess, but I cleaned out my closet last month and it's still organized. This is understanding that not everything is going to get done and giving yourself credit for the things that do get done versus beating yourself up for the things you did not get done. And along with this self-monitoring, the second level of this is understanding how long things take. Like, how long does it actually take to do things? So I timed myself. It takes 4 minutes to unload a dishwasher. I thought it took 15. It takes 10 minutes to change the laundry. I thought it took 20. So actually timing yourself and figuring out how long these tasks take so you have a more realistic expectation of how much you can actually get done. The next one is task initiation. So this is the ability to get started, and often that's what we hear, oh, I have trouble getting started. However, as a teacher, I know that task initiation is more than just getting started. And if you really, really struggle with task initiation, it's over and over and over again. I keep going back to this middle school math because this is where it shows up. So in middle school math, when I have a child that has task initiation as one of their challenges with ADHD, doing a math worksheet is like 30 different startings. Every single, like they get done with the end of a problem and like, oh, I'm done. Oh, I have to do another one. And you have to get that energy again to keep going on problem number 2. And you work through problem number 2 and you get to the end, you're like, oh, I'm done. Oh, shoot, there's problem number 3. And it's somebody who really struggles with task initiation totally understands what I'm talking about. Every single step, starting and finishing every single step. I mentioned my son. This is when we realized making a bagel with cream cheese was 18 steps. It's an 18-step task. You may be like, you got to be kidding me. No, I'm serious. First, you have to get out the bagel. Then you have to get out the cream cheese. Then you have to get out the toaster. That's 3 tasks. And for him, at that stage, every single one of those tasks had a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you struggle with task initiation, 2 everyday tasks that probably trip you up are laundry, which is collecting the clothes, starting the laundry, changing the laundry, folding the laundry, and putting the laundry away. Every single one of those tasks feels like a brand new task to you. It doesn't feel like it's one continuous task of doing the laundry. Same with dinner, planning the meal, shopping for the food, preparing the meal, cleaning up after the meal. And in every one of those, it's like 25 more steps or more. And you're literally exhausted from just doing those two tasks. The next one is planning. And this is the ability, like I said, to look at your to-do list and not go 1 to 30 or cherry pick only the easier things, to really look at the list and say, what is the one thing on this list that if I got it done would make everything else easier or unnecessary or move me along the fastest? That's from the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. This one goes most along with self-monitoring, that ability to know how long things are going to take and in what order things should be done. Planning and self-monitoring go together a lot. And understanding, if the only thing you take out of this presentation is this, is that if you get one thing done every day, A+. The most things I ever get done in one day is 3. Seriously, we are putting way too much on our to-do lists, and we are expecting way more of ourselves than is humanly possible to even do. And the last one is organization. And this is the ability to keep track of things mentally and physically. Basically, the motto that you heard up, only one place for everything and everything in its place. Do you know where the nail clippers are in your house? This is the thing we can never find, the fingernail clippers, Or where do you keep extra school supplies? Are they everywhere, or is there one place for those? How about scissors? When you need to cut something, I can never find scissors, right? With 12 pairs, where are the scissors? One place for scissors to go. Or medicine, having cold medicine in multiple different places, or do you just have one place that you go when people don't feel well? Having everything in one place and being able to put things away. You may have one place for things, but nothing's ever there because you have a hard time putting things back where they go. All right, so those are the 6 that we're going to talk about. Hopefully you have identified which of the 6 you or the person you're thinking about struggles with. I'd love for you to take a minute and think about, okay, which one is the biggest strength? Which one is the biggest weakness? And I'm going to go through these again, and I'm going to give you solutions. Are we ready? Giving you a second to think about that. All right, we're going to start with flexible thinking. So with flexible thinking, Pinterest is your friend. If you struggle with flexible thinking, Pinterest and a Google search bar or YouTube are going to be your friend. And what I would encourage you to do is think about the next thing you want to organize. Let's say it's school supplies. And then go on Pinterest and search school supplies organization ideas. Or go on YouTube, school supply organization ideas, homework station, whatever it is that is frustrating you. Watch those videos, make a Pinterest board. If you don't have flexible thinking, this is going to give you a lot of ideas. Pick one and try it. Now, the thing about trying organization is you aren't always going to get the right answer the first time. About 80% of the time you do. So if you try 5 different organization ideas, one is definitely going to flop and you're going to have to go back and redo that. So we aren't looking for a perfect solution. We aren't going to Target and spending $200. We're just thinking, okay, Lisa stores all of her school supplies in her grandmother's desk in her living room. Well, I have space in my living room that's not being used. What if I gather all the school supplies all over our house and put them in one location in our living room? Does that work for me? It may not. This is also a great time to pull in that organizational friend, or when you have a friend over or you're at their house, just say, hey, how do you organize this? And get ideas from them as well. If you have a lot of flexible thinking like I do, I never go on Pinterest. I have a Pinterest account, but a team member runs that for me because I have so many ideas that Pinterest is idea overload for me. The next one is working memory. And whether you are diagnosed with ADHD or not, we just flat out have way too many things coming at us. And working memory actually declines after the age of 40. So if you're over 40, your working memory is getting less and less every year. And the solution to this is to write everything down. I cannot tell you how hard it was to teach my kids to write everything down, but if they don't write everything down, they will forget it. So write everything down, every idea you have, everything you need to buy, every request that comes at you by email or phone or children or parents or work, everything down. And my solution is to put that in this box called a Sunday basket. You put all of your ideas in there that can wait until Sunday, and then you go through that on Sunday and sort them out, because not all of our ideas are great. And because we don't have a place to put them, we feel we need to act on all of our ideas right away, or we're going to forget them. And if we're going to forget them, where do they go? And by having this Sunday basket, we can write down all of our ideas, and we can trust that we're going to remember them because they're in a box. And when we get to Sunday and go through those ideas, I'm telling you, 50% of them, I just recycle because they weren't that great of ideas, and I needed some time to lapse between the idea and actually the implementation. So the solution is to just carry note cards everywhere. Like, I have a little notebook in my purse. I have note cards in my car. I have note cards in the kitchen. I have note cards in my office. I have them everywhere. Whenever I have an idea, I write it down. I literally have no ideas in my head anymore. I could be fully present in this webinar because I'm not thinking about anything on my to-do list or anything that needs to be done later or any ideas that I've had today. I really want you, as much as possible, to try to let go of having a to-do list. A to-do list is a constant reminder of everything you haven't done yet, and you cannot get a to-do list done in one day. Picking 1 to 3 tasks to do for the day and writing out your schedule will help you so much more than an ongoing to-do list. And leading into that is writing out your schedule the night before. We're going to talk about that in planning as well. Next is self-monitoring. Remember, I said this is giving yourself an attaboy. Good job. You got an A+ today. You did great. Versus at the end of the day going, oh my gosh, there's so much to do and I didn't get anything done. If this is you, I just want to let you know, first of all, keeping tiny humans alive counts as a win. Like, if all the people that are in your control are still alive at the end of the day and no one starved to death, you get an A+. Like, we need to give ourselves a lot more credit for everything we do every day that we just take as for granted. And I think it would be really helpful for you, if you struggle with this, just to have a simple little notebook by your bed, and before you go to bed, just write down one thing that you did today that you checked off your to-do list or you're really proud of. And you can always think of one thing at the end of the day. And then when you're having a down day or thinking, oh, I'm just not making very much progress, then go through and read your journal. All right, the next one is task initiation, and this is starting, but also continuing until you're finished with the task. The biggest thing for this is to only have one thing. Now, I've said that you can have 1 to 3 tasks that you want to get done for the day. If you struggle with task initiation, I want you to only have one. And I know you're sitting there going, she is crazy. She's completely crazy. Do you know how many things are on my to-do list? If I only picked one, impossible. I have to get 10 things done tomorrow. First of all, do you ever get 10 things done? Probably, usually not. And also, if you pick one thing, but you pick a large thing to get done, over time, it usually takes about 6 weeks. Over time, you will notice you have so much more time in your schedule and you're getting bigger things done and checked off your list, and your to-do list is becoming much smaller or eliminated into a Sunday basket. So I want you to learn to get success. To have success. Go ahead and leave all 10 things on your to-do list because you don't believe me. I 100% understand. Leave them all on there, but I want you to highlight one or star one, and that's going to be your one. And at the end of the day, no matter what, that one thing has to get done. So if you have 5 extra minutes, be thinking about how you're going to get it done. Or you find an extra hour, work on that. Or if you have to stay up a little later to get that one checked off, get it checked off your list. Once you've done that, you can reward yourself with social media or TV or a food treat or whatever you want. Just like we do with kids, reward yourself, but do not, I repeat, do not increase to 2 things on your to-do list until you've been able to accomplish one thing every single day for 6 to 8 weeks straight. And then you can add a second one, because we are really quick to go, oh, yeah, I can do that. All right, I'm going to add number 2 on. As soon as you add number 2 on, then all of a sudden you're not even getting number 1 done. I don't know why it happens that way. I just know it does. I did a podcast episode about how I was the same way. I was eating salads. I was doing great. I added more things. And then all of a sudden I wasn't doing the more things and I wasn't eating the salad anymore either. And I'm a pretty productive person. So One thing only. You can have the rest of the things on the to-do list if you want, but let's just focus on one. All right, let's talk about planning. Getting organized gives you time, hands down, no questions asked. Becoming an organized person, every space that you organize in your house is going to give you time. This is a way to buy time. However, it takes time to get organized, so it's kind of like a catch-22. Benjamin Franklin said, for every minute you spend in planning, you gain 3 to 4 in execution. So what that means is, if the night before, when you're getting ready to go to bed, you look at your Google Calendar for tomorrow or your planner, you see what your schedule is like, first of all, there may be some things on there that you forgot, like, oh, I have to have brownies at school for the kids, or, oh, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow, or I'm meeting someone for coffee, or that report is due. I mean, it happens to me all the time. You don't always know what's going to happen tomorrow. So now you know the night before, and you can make arrangements or plans to make sure that happens. Also, I have found that when I go through my schedule for the next day, the night before, my brain actually goes to work at night, reordering things and helping me come up with solutions for what I'm going to work on the next day. It's amazingly awesome. And I know that when I spend 10 minutes at night making my to-do list, checking everything off for the next day, my agenda and my top 1 to 3 things that I'm going to accomplish the next day, I definitely save 30 to 40 minutes the next day, not forgetting things, not trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next, not going backwards and redoing things because I couldn't remember where I left off. So that little note card that I make every single night saves me a ton of time the next day. In addition, that little note card can just be carried with you with your phone or anywhere that you're going, so you have a portable to-do list. Agenda, to-do list, same thing. And then the next one, which I think, I don't have a slide for, is organizing. So organizing is a place for everything and everything in its space. And this is the organizing that you're talking about. So in this, we want to organize one space at a time. And then after that space is organized, like we just said, school supplies, once all of the school supplies are located in the living room desk that was your grandmother's, from here on out, whenever you run into a school supply in your house, or you bring something home that you've purchased, or it's the end of the school year and the kids bring their school supplies home, those always go in the desk in the living room. So after you organize one space, that becomes the place where that thing resides, and we maintain and we keep that organized, and then we move on to the next space. Typically, we spend 80% of our time when we are at home in the kitchen or the master bedroom, bathroom, closet combination. And in my program, the 100-Day Home Organization Program, we spend the first 3 weeks in the kitchen, 3 weeks, because I want you to organize and have success. So we spend one day doing the silverware drawer and one day doing the glasses cabinet. And you may say, oh my gosh, well, why can't you just get the kitchen done in a day? Because organization takes time. And to really think through and process through that organization takes time. And if you have 15 to 30 minutes, you can keep up with my program. You don't always have large chunks of time to devote to getting organized. The second area you spend the most amount of time is your closet, the bathroom you get ready in, and your bedroom. And we spend the second 21 days in that space as well. Once you get those 2 spaces completely organized, then it's maintaining the kitchen, maintaining I call it your bedroom condo, your bathroom, closet, and your bedroom. And I call kids' bedrooms their mini apartments. And we start to think about who has ownership of this space and how they own it, how they organize it. Okay, so let's talk about, you're ready to organize any space you want to in your home. Let's talk about the family room first. There are 4 steps you're going to start in every organization session. And this is kind of like priming the pump and giving you a routine that you will go through in every space you organize. I take kids through this when they're organizing their bedrooms as well. So we're always going to look for trash, collect food and dishes, clothing, and then we're going to start our 15-minute organizing task in any session. If you have a hard time getting started, this is your game changer, creating a habit and a routine for getting started. So first is trash. When we go into the family room, there is going to be trash in there in any room that you're in. Trash can be trash that needs to be recycled or thrown away, or it also could be an item that you're ready to give to Goodwill or to donate. So trash and donations could be the same thing. You don't want to make any decisions. So when you walk in the space, and this is going to help your working memory, I chant the word. So trash, trash, trash. Because if you don't chant the word, and you walk in the family room and you start collecting trash, you're going to notice a book or a DVD or something different, and your mind is going to wander and you're going to get off task. So even I walk in a room and I just say trash, trash, trash. And I look around and I'm not consciously saying trash, but I am audibly saying trash. And as I walk around the room and pick up things that are either donating or trash or recycling until my arms can't hold anymore, and then I take and I put those where they need to go, I go back in the room, trash, trash, trash. And I look around, is there any more? And as soon as I don't think there's any more trash in that space, I look around one more time, because there's usually hidden trash that we didn't notice. Also, by chanting trash, 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 as you look around the room, you are telling your mind and you are scanning for only trash. So I'm a jigsaw puzzle doer. I love to do jigsaw puzzles. And when I do jigsaw puzzles, I'm looking for edge pieces, and then I'm looking for purple, and then I'm looking for green. And so often when I get to a new color like blue, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much blue. How did I not see these pieces when I was looking through this box of puzzle pieces before? And it's because it wasn't what I was looking for. So instead of looking at everything in the room that needs to be done, we are only focusing on trash. Also, if you get called away and you can't finish your organization session, you haven't made a big mess. You've actually just improved the space that you were in. Step 1, always trash. When the trash is done, I have teenagers. We've always allowed food to go outside of our kitchen. If you don't allow food to go outside of your kitchen, maybe you can skip this one. But most people I know do need to do this step. And this is where I chant food and dishes, food and dishes, food and dishes. And I look around the room. Invariably, there will be a water glass and chips that were brought in there and a paper plate that the puppy licked something off of, or a napkin or whatever. There's always some kind of food and dishes in addition to trash. And I move all of that back into the kitchen. The third one is clothing. And in our house, this is socks. As soon as my daughter walks in the house, like her socks and shoes are off, they're everywhere. Like at the end of the night, I could pick up 7 pairs of shoes. She's one human. I don't understand. Shoes, socks, backpacks, jackets, sweatshirts, dirty clothes, clean clothes. There's clothing everywhere in our car, in our family room. It's just everywhere. So I walk around, is there any clothing in here that either needs to go in our shoe basket or hung up where coats go, or the laundry needs to be put away? And you may be thinking, well, shoot, if I'm going to do all that, I'm not going to have any time to organize. Maybe. Like in the beginning, when you start doing this, if you're only giving yourself 15 minutes to do an organizing session, you can very easily get to the end of that 15 minutes and have only done these 3 things. But eventually, these 3 things will be done, either not take any time at all or be done in just a few minutes. It is not getting to the organizing task that's important here. It's learning this script and this habit. Once you develop a habit, it is very hard to break it. But if you're just trying by sheer willpower to get yourself organized, it's much, much harder to do that. So I'm going to review that real quick. We're going to do trash, then we're going to do food and dishes, then we're going to do clothing, and then you get to your 15-minute organizing tasks. Now, your 15-minute organizing task is going to vary based on your organizational ability, your organization muscles that you've honed, the size of your house, what you're trying to get organized. The 100-day program that I have breaks the whole house for any woman anywhere in the world in any size dwelling into 15-minute-a-day tasks. And this summer, we'll be adding a kids program. If you do have kids, you can go to organize365.com/kids, and there's a whole podcast series and checklist there for them to break down and organize their bedroom. If you aren't in a program or you have no idea where to start and you've gotten through those first 3 tasks, then I would pick a small area. I love to start in the laundry room. And the reason why I say to start in the laundry room is because, number 1, the family really doesn't care what you do in there. Number 2, you can take as long as it takes in order for you to get your laundry room organized, and it doesn't disrupt the family in any way. You could practice your organizing muscles in there. We do have a free week where you could try organizing the laundry room the way we do it in our 100-day program. If you go to organize365.com/try100, I'll give you the whole entire program for doing the laundry room. But find what is the area that is really bothering you the most. Is it your closet because we're headed into spring? Then start with your closet. Is your kitchen because, I don't know, you just can't find what you need? then start in your kitchen, but only do small 15-minute organizing tasks. So I know Marie Kondo is super, super popular right now. And if you have a professional organizer at your house, I 100% say, fine, get all of your books and put them in one location. If you're going to organize by yourself, do not dare to do that. Like, do one shelf on the bookshelf, do one drawer in the kitchen all the way through. Remember, task initiation, start, finish, clean it out, put everything back, then do the next drawer. Do not completely empty out your closet. Take all the shoes out, make all of the shoe decisions, put the shoes you want to keep back. If you still have time, take all the pants out. Don't empty the entire space, especially if you don't feel like your organizing muscles are as strong as they need to be. All right, so Susan, I'm going to hand it back over to you for question and answer.
Awesome. Lisa, that was really great.
Thank you.
We got some great questions from our listeners, so let's just jump in. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on Marie Kondo? And I think you just answered that question. Don't take everything out at once. Go step by step. So one of the big questions here, and I've seen this one before, and I think it's so important. This person asks, how do you find a place for everything when every possible storage spot in my house is jammed with stuff? It's overwhelming to figure out how to organize those places. Help. And it seems to me that, a place for everything is so critical to any organization that I wonder how you tackle that problem at the very outset of an organizing campaign.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be very realistic with yourself. Getting your house organized from being overwhelmed to organized is going to take you 1 year. I don't like to sugarcoat things. I'm a functional organizer. It took me a year to get a handle on my own house. I go through my own house 3 times a year. The 100-day program is done over and over and over again. It's done every season. And every time you go through, you get another layer organized. And then after you get through the living spaces, you don't even tackle storage until after you're done with that. Like, we have, especially with TV, we just think that you can go through your whole house in a weekend or in a month and it's all going to be organized. And it's not. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made as you do that. So pick one space, the laundry room, your master closet, or your kitchen, one of those spaces. And seriously, just do 15 to 30 minutes a day for a month. And at the end of that month, you will have that one space functioning the way you want it to function, and then you move to the next one. And it is slow, but it's slow and steady wins the race. Don't pretend that you're on TV. My house is not, in my program, I show my house, and I was like, oh, great, we're in my laundry room. And there's stuff everywhere. I mean, we just don't live in a magazine. You have got to give yourself grace.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so if you're tackling a room, then in the course of tackling that room, you'll figure out how to liberate space so that things will have a place. Is that the idea?
Yes, because when you'll realize that, oh, shoot, I have pot holders in 2 different drawers, or, oh, we're storing, starches in 2 different areas, or you just may have a small house. And if you have a small house, then you're going to have to get rid of some stuff. But what I found was after I'd lived in my house about 15 years when I started my own organizational journey, I just had never really decluttered very well. Like, my kids were in middle school and I still had baby forks. Like, I was like, probably don't need those. We don't even have any babies in our family.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely takes time. Interesting. And Amy says, task initiation just exhausts me. It just seems overwhelming, and I really don't have the words to even explain it. So that I think, we've talked about this before, Lisa, just getting started.
Yep.
And I think maybe you could recap your response to that, which I think is to have that set of things that you always do, so you don't have to make that decision each time. Is that right? So trash.
Yeah, as a educator and through my research in ADHD, if task initiation is the thing that you struggle with the most, the best solution to task initiation is a tutor or an assistant. So depending on your financial ability, hiring a professional organizer is an amazing person to help you get you started and keep you going. Kids who struggle with task initiation need to sit close to the teacher and they're like, okay, do number 3. Okay, do number 4, and kind of prod them along. So if you can't get a person to help you, you really need to find a program. Does not need to be mine, but you need to find a program where every day you're going to get the task. Okay, this is what the teacher has said to do. And you trust that the teacher has created a program that if you do all of the steps at the end, you will have an organized house. So you really need you're trying to get started and grow organizational muscles and figure out what to organize next. You can get your house decluttered on your own, but if you don't have organization as a strength, it's hard to figure out and miraculously become an organized person on your own without following some kind of a program.
That's interesting. Okay. So consider if you really, really have a problem getting started and addressing the whole thing, getting some help to get started. Here's a micro question that I thought was great. When taking out food and dishes from the room, do you then do the dishes?
No, you do not.
Okay. Because that's a separate task, right?
Yes. You go straight back to the family room to finish whatever until your timer goes off.
So those 4 steps are being done to a timer.
It can be. I find people like to have an end date, especially, think about starting anything new. Like I'm not very exercise-ish. So if I was going to want to run a mile, I'm like, all right, I'll run to the end of the block and then walk the dog at the end. And I'm counting every second until I'm done because I don't enjoy it. I'm not good at it. It's new. So if you don't enjoy it, you're not good at it, and organizing is new, set a timer. As soon as you do this for 20 minutes, you get to go on Instagram or whatever it is you want to do. But you have to go all the way until the timer.
Okay. So the timer really helps then. Alex is asking how to avoid scope creep. In other words, how do you effectively define done when organizing? And interestingly, I think that question was also part of the question about do you then wash the dishes, right? When you clean up
I think
the dishes.
that, sit down and this is how I came up with the program for the kitchen. I sat down and I listed every single space in my kitchen. And I was like, all right, there's the silverware drawer, there's the refrigerator, there's the freezer, I listed everything in a list. So make a list of every single thing in one room, the room that you want to start with, and then number them 1 to whatever. That's how many days it's going to take you to organize that space. And when you go in the first day, great, silverware drawer. You do the silverware drawer, start it, wash it out, put it all back, check it off your list, you're done with the silverware drawer. So scope creep doesn't happen if you have a task that you're starting and finishing in one place versus doing the whole room. Like organizing the whole family room is too large of a task. You need to break it down into smaller tasks. If you still have time, go on to the next one and you could do 2 tasks in one day, but do a task all the way through to the end and then go to the next one if you have time.
Okay, that's great. This is a fun one from a listener. She says, I consider myself pretty organized, but it seems that something new is always appearing in my home, things that I don't have a designated place for yet. So I end up with random piles of things that don't have a home. Suggestions for how to tackle piles? And we also have a similar question from a listener who's asking about tackling piles of paper, the piles that seem to pile up in the kitchen or on a table.
Okay, so piles of things that come in, first would be identify the owner. So is it you? Is it a spouse? Is it children? Who owns the item? And earlier I alluded to the fact that my bedroom is considered a condo and my children have apartments. And when children are 12 is when I say that all of their possessions should reside in their apartment. We're teaching them life skills. So if it is a child's object, then, if there are too many of them, I grab a laundry basket and I collect them and I take them to their bedroom and I put the laundry basket in their room. Here, assimilate this into your apartment. It has creeped out into the main living areas of this complex. And I do it that way because you really want to think about ownership of the item and ownership of the spaces. And you do have communal living spaces, but when you think about storage as even if you have a garage or a storage room in your house, if you think of it as paid storage, you'll organize it differently and you'll get better shelving and you'll label everything that's in there versus just shoving things in there like it's a hot mess room. FYI, my whole house was a hot mess room, so I totally understand where some people are starting. So starting to identify whose it is, and then once we get to whose it is, what we need to do with it at that point, that is helpful. Also, you may notice that like when I went for a new Wi-Fi router, they were like, how many devices do you have? I was like, I don't know, 6. When we got done adding up, I had 22. I had not taken into account that every printer was Wi-Fi and every phone and every iPad and every, like we had so many more wireless devices than I realized. Sometimes you need to really take a step back and think about if you've lived in your house for more than 10 years, you might not even have Wi-Fi at all 10 years ago. So is it in the right location? Do we need different charging spaces? Do we need to buy more charging cables? Do we need to set up, so what is it that's causing the piles? Is this something that is short-term or long-term and needs to find a new home? And then with that, are there things still in our house that used to take up residence and they don't need to take up residence anymore? Like, okay, we don't tend to read books very often anymore, so we can get rid of books or DVDs. Like, do you even have we have so many DVDs and we no longer even have a DVD player, which is hilarious. But we can't get rid of the DVDs for some reason. So are you holding on to something that you don't even have the ability to play it? So that was that question. And then paper is a whole nother monster. So the Sunday basket is step 1 for organizing your kitchen counter paper and actionable to-dos. And then I am on a mission to ditch the filing cabinet, like to completely eliminate it. I have 4 binders that replace the filing cabinet. And this is very helpful if you live in California where there are fires or, in the South where there are hurricanes. Files are not portable. And binders are portable, they're actionable, and they give you a confined amount of space that you have, so you don't save everything, you just save what is most important. Usually when people get their house organized, then they realize how much paper they have, and so we have a solution for that after you are done with organizing your house.
Okay, so separate, I agree with you, the paper is a whole other thing, and there are many questions here about paper mail, magazines, books, including one from someone who hasn't been able to open the mail for a year. So I agree that it's a different.
So the Sunday Basket podcast, just start at Sunday Basket podcast number 1, go all the way through 28. It will address every kind of paper that you have.
Okay, Sunday Basket number 1. Questions from a couple of listeners who would like to know what you think about using your phone or an app, Trello, Notes, to capture Sunday basket items.
So I am a very much paper pencil girl. Like if it's digital, it doesn't exist for me. My son, who's very ADHD, does everything digitally. He'll send himself text messages and leave them unread. That's how he does his calendar because he doesn't do a calendar. So if it works for you, 100%, whatever works for you, keep doing. If it's not working for you, look for a new solution.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm a digital person, and if it were on paper, it would never work for me. But yeah, so I think you're right. Figure out your own. If Trello and Notes work for you, then so much the better. Because there are a couple of people here who say the idea of notes on paper, they will lose them all. So, any comments on old photos and antique newspapers is memorabilia, I guess.
You guys are hitting them all. This is good. So I say photo. I have over 100 scrapbooked photo albums, and I've done over 500. Like, I love photos. That was my first career. Photos are very time consuming to organize. So I often tell people organize your house, then organize your paper, then organize your photos and memorabilia. So if your house and your paper is not organized, keep archiving your photos and memorabilia in boxes and label what they're in. If you're ready to organize your photos and memorabilia, then I say designate a space for that, a room where you're going to be sorting photos, because most likely it will take you a solid year to sort and organize and scan or turn those into digital albums or whatever you want to do with them and disperse them to your family members.
Okay. I think Marie Kondo says a similar thing. When it comes to memorabilia, it's the hardest of all categories, and to hold it until the rest of the house is organized. So that's consistent. This person is saying, how about organizing massive keepsake items? I think you would agree that those are in the memorabilia category and should come at the end.
I have quite a few podcasts on that, like what to save when a loved one passes or how to save your childhood memories. My big thing about memories is that you save the memory, not necessarily the thing. So if you've been saving all of your kids' baby clothes because you love your kids' baby clothes, then save a couple of outfits for them for their babies someday, and then take your favorites and have that turned into a quilt. Or take photos of all of your old sports awards and things like that and put them into an album. Or when my father passed away, I got a shadow box. And as we were going through our family house, I kept finding little things around the house that reminded me of things and putting them in the shadow box. So like I didn't keep the BB gun, but I kept the BBs that went in the BB gun. And we didn't keep the BMW, but we kept like, for whatever reason, he had an extra emblem, like, you know, the thing that's on the front of the car. We put that in the shadow box, or a key to the golf court, or there was like a shower cap to a place we used to vacation. And I filled this little shadow box with all these neat memories, but I don't have the car or the house or any of the other big things. I just have the little remembrances. And every time I see that shadow box, it reminds me of all these things about my father. And so it's very meaningful to me.
That's a terrific idea. There are listeners who are asking, I would call this a general category of helping others that they live with in the household organize. So one person who says, I'm on board with decluttering an organization. My husband's a pack rat. Or how do I help my teen without causing anger and overparenting? So the general issue of living with people who may not be on board with your goal of organization and decluttering.
Yeah, so everybody has a tolerance for minimalism to, I guess, hoarding, but not that level. Marie Kondo is definitely a minimalist. I am right in the middle of the road, so I don't mind if you keep your stuff. Like I have no problem with it. You have to respect, again, who owns the item. If it's not you, then you can't declutter it, in my opinion. Like it's somebody else's to declutter. If it's a husband and wife, that's a little harder because you share your bedroom. If you don't share the bedroom, like let's say it's a teenager and they are not as organized as you are, then I used to say to my daughter, it's like you're living in a hamster cage because there was so much stuff in her room and she had a hamster. So she thought that was hilarious. But I just keep putting all her stuff in her room. Like it's not going to be in the house. If you want to keep all this stuff, then it's going to have to fit in your bedroom. And then you're able to keep the house at the level of organization that you want it to be at. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a question. I think you've addressed it, but not certainly. The clutter throughout my house is overwhelming. How do I decide where to start? And someone else said, did you say you had a plan to tackle the entire house? So I guess that's the question of if you're starting from ground zero, how do you start? And I'm guessing you probably can refer these listeners to your podcast, to a specific podcast to address that.
Yeah. So if you're going to start on paper, then you would start the Sunday Basket podcast. If you're going to start your whole house, I have a 100-day home organization program. It's lifetime membership. We go through the 100 days 3 times a year. It comes with a planner to start. We have a Facebook group. We have all kinds of supports for it. We always start in the kitchen. So the kitchen is going to be where you spend the majority of your time. You can start in the kitchen. If that is a communal space and that bothers you, then start in your master closet, your side of your master closet. Let's get out the clothes that you don't look and feel great in anymore, even if that means we're dropping you down to 5 outfits that are less. I have a very minimalistic closet, not because I'm a minimalist, because I didn't like the clothes that were in there anymore, and I don't have a lot of money to buy more new clothes, but I am down to everything that's in there I love and wear, and that took me probably 18 months to get down to that point. Another thing I want you to notice, if you're going to declutter, in my opinion, you can only declutter about 20% at any one time. So even if you feel like 80% of this room needs to go, after you clear out about 20%, there's going to be a disconnect in you and you're not going to want to declutter anymore, even though you know you don't want those items. It's just too harsh. And even as a professional organizer, we could sometimes get to 40 or 50%, but we could never get to the full 80%. It's just too drastic of a change. You need to be a little gentler with yourself. I always say, if you're not sure if you should get rid of it or keep it, keep it. Because in our program, 100 days from now, you're going to go through it again. Get rid of it then. Don't get rid of something and then wish you hadn't, because then you'll stop getting rid of anything. Keep it and then wish you had, and then you'll be better set up for decluttering. If the master closet is overwhelming, especially if you don't like the current size that you are, if the kitchen is overwhelming because it's a communal space and you just don't want to start that publicly with your family, start in the laundry room. Nobody cares about the laundry room. You may be the only one in the laundry room, and you could start to make little tweaks in the laundry room and practice the organizing and decluttering. A lot of things that end up in the laundry room are like mending or mismatched socks, and just declare Sock Day Amnesty Day. Gone. Are you really going to mend it? How long has it been there? Gone. And just start, old cleaners that don't work for you, like just start getting rid of things and no one's really going to notice. And you could start figuring out how you feel about decluttering.
That is great, and we are out of time, and I want to thank you, Lisa. There's a comment here that I'm going to read for everyone because I think it reflects the thoughts of many people who are listening in. She says, thank you. I'm an adult living with ADD plus perfectionism, and I often don't start because I can't complete things in the beautiful way that I envision doing it. And 5 simple words that you shared earlier actually sunk in today, and that is done is better than perfect. So she thanks you, as do many others. So thank you so much for everything you've done. And everybody, check out Organize 365 and Lisa's resources, which has helped thousands and thousands of people. So thank you, Lisa. And thanks all for listening in today. Bye.
Bye.